Okay, hello. So, my voice is back. It's been like 2 weeks after the wedding. Probably like a week to a week and a half afterwards. My throat was still like super raspy. It was very dry. It took a while to get it back, but since it's back, I'm gonna go over some of our wedding planning, wedding details, what worked for us, what didn't work for us, vendors, etc. So we're just gonna break down everything that Nick and I learned during our Calgary wedding planning while doing a long distance relationship. First one I went through is why Calgary. So in 2024, Nick and I had our legal courthouse marriage in Santa Clara in California. And since we had that legal marriage there, we decided to do our wedding celebration in Canada. So just for background, I'm in Edmonton, Nick is in California, and we decided to have our wedding in Calgary because it was more central to a lot of our family. Nick has some family there, I have some family there, and it's just easier to fly into compared to Edmonton. And we know a lot of family haven't been to Canada before, and Banff is right there. So we know a lot of family and friends wanted to do a trip out of it, so that way people could go a little bit beforehand or afterwards to visit Banff. Oh. So says hi. Our biggest tip for doing any sort of virtual wedding planning or long distance planning is a joint email. So Nick and I, we did create a joint email actually prior to any wedding planning because we were doing our visa green card application. So we already had that ready. So most of our wedding contact information was through our joint email. First thing that we did get finalized was venue. So around December 2024, January 2025, Nick was making a trip up. So we booked a bunch of venue tours, primarily golf clubs, but then we did also look at like outdoor parks. And we did have an idea of a date before we went into the tours, just for availability. So luckily, a lot of the weekends were free already because we were looking a year and a half in advance. So we were kind of down to 2 golf clubs, Valley Ridge, which is the one that we went with, and then another one, I won't name them. But we were really liking this other one. They were a bit more expensive, but the place looked beautiful. Now, we didn't go with this one because the venue coordinator was kind of cocky and condescending. We went in, he was very confident in the venue, which is fair because it was very beautiful. But when we went ahead and contacted him via email about dates and everything, he referred to us as kids and was very unprofessional in his email. So just because of that, we just didn't go with them. And we're kind of happy we didn't go with them just because of our interactions with the coordinator. So we went with Valley Ridge. Brianne, who was a coordinator there, she was great, answered all our questions, very responsive, so fantastic. And we went with the larger venue space in there, which could hold up to, I think, about 200-ish people. I want to say, don't mark my words. The only downfall was this, is that we couldn't plan a rehearsal date until about a month before the wedding. So unfortunately, since a lot of the wedding party, they were flying from all over the US and Canada, a lot of them couldn't make it to the rehearsal date that we chose because it was too late to figure out their schedules and they couldn't come early enough. So that was the only downfall, but otherwise they did have the food tasting a few months in advance, so that was great. The food tasting only happens once a year, and for us it was in March, so we had all the couples that had weddings that year to go to that specific food tasting. The next things that we looked at were all the vendors. So the first one that I really looked into early was the hair and makeup artists. And I did reach out once again about a year and a half in advance. A lot of the hair and makeup artists didn't have their availabilities for 2026 yet when I reached out to them. But the nice thing about it was that some of them did have like the early bird type of discount. So I did get a bit of a reduced rate, which was nice. The way that I did this, I just looked on Instagram, Google searches on hair and makeup artists in Calgary that did wedding makeup and wedding hair, and then I also asked for recommendations from friends. I did consider the costs because I did decide to cover the makeup for all the bridesmaids, and then hair was optional for them. So for the bridesmaids, if they did want to pay for the hair, they could, but it wasn't mandatory. They could do the hair themselves. Fast forward to the hair and makeup trials. I booked the hair and makeup trial the same day. That way too, I could look at everything together, see how everything looked. The first one was the hair. I booked TD Hair and Makeup, so Trisha Domingo, and she was great. So for the hair trial, we got to try out 2 different styles. We did a half up, half down, and then the low bun. And that took only about like an hour, hour and a half-ish. It was pretty quick for the 2 styles, which was great. And then for makeup, I did Artistry by Britta. And one thing I was wanting to look at for makeup was artists who were better with Asian makeup, because a lot of my bridesmaids were Asian. And luckily with Brita, my sister was actually one of the bridesmaids in a wedding party that Brita had done the makeup for. And Brita, she's actually very good with Asian makeup. She's kind of known for it, for being a non-Asian makeup artist. But yeah, she was great. Everything looked fantastic. Did little touches on what I liked, what I didn't like. So yeah, both of them were super communicative. They were great. Next one that we looked at was a photographer and videographer. With this one, we lucked out because Reclaimed reached out to us actually and offered to do our wedding. They are the ones that actually did our engagement shoot and proposal shoot in Calgary. They wanted to expand their portfolio a little bit. They actually offered us a pretty good price for 2 photographers and 2 videographers to drive down from Edmonton for the day, do 12 hours of work, and then drive back up to Edmonton that same day. With them, we had about 2 to 3 meetings every month leading up to the wedding. So our wedding was in June. Our first meeting was around April, and I had another one in May and June just to go over the details of the day, go through the shot list, etc. One thing that we didn't realize for videography is that on the day of, we definitely wanted video. But one thing is that we had our getting ready in the morning. We had the wedding party photos in between and then the ceremony. So we got all the shots before the wedding event started. The thing I didn't realize with videography, which in hindsight makes sense, is that videography takes a lot more time because they have to do a shot several times to make sure that they get the right shot. What I was expecting to be a pretty streamlined, easy wedding party shoot, it actually took a lot longer than I thought, and we were actually running behind a little bit. So one thing to keep in mind if you are doing video, it's gonna take a bit of extra time. Our MCs, we actually had Nick's cousins, Steven and Shelby, be the MCs for the wedding. Steven actually does some hobby MCing on the side. So he's done a few weddings before and he was great. Like he had the whole itinerary planned out, their talking points. And with Shelby too, Shelby was able to assist Steven and then they could kind of work the crowd with each other. So many people came up to us afterwards saying they did such a fantastic job. People asked us like, oh, where do we hire them from? People asked for their cards too. They did great. A lot of people said that the flow was nice. There was never like a lull in the day and the pace was very good. So they pretty much planned out the order of events of the reception itself and I'm so glad they did. They took care of everything.
The next item.
Your next item is a $20 bill.
They were so good. We got the DJ. So with the DJ, we were actually on the fence of getting a DJ or not. This was one of the later vendors that we got. We heard mixed reviews. Some people were saying, oh, you can just do a Spotify playlist. Some really liked having a DJ. And in the end, we decided to go with a DJ just so we didn't have to put that task on a family or friend. They can just enjoy the night too. So we decided to go with Revolution Entertainment. I did a big Google search and Revolution was pretty fairly priced for what they offered. So with the DJ one specifically, we did do the sound tag. So include the DJ, but no MC because we didn't need one. We also added in the ceremony fee and then the extra hour of DJ service at the end, just because with the timing, we wanted it to end later than what the time slot was for that package. They luckily had a database or a platform that was relatively user-friendly. They had all the events that you could assign a song to, which was convenient. And then they had categories of must be played, maybe played, and then do not play, etc. that you could assign songs to. And if there were any songs missing from the database, you could just email them, they can add it in, and then pretty straightforward from there. And one thing I didn't realize with music in general was how many songs you need things for. Even the MCs, they discussed with us, oh, like, what song do you want for the cake cutting? It's like, I didn't know you needed a song for that one. So I was initially just play whatever, but you had to assign a song for that. Overall, the DJs were actually so good. They were great. I think they had a blast too. There were 2 of them and they kept the vibes once again going all night. They played the right songs during the dinner, during the reception, and then during the dance portion, they did play some of the songs that we requested. And I think they added a few more in there just based on the vibes. but they read the room so good. And it was such a vibe. And then one of the DJs actually joined in on the dance floor for a quick moment. Like, Nick and I were so happy with them. The day of coordinator. So this was also a last minute vendor addition that we decided. About 4 months prior to the wedding, we initially were just assigning friends and family different tasks to make the day more smooth. But once it got down to planning like the fine detail stuff of the day, we were getting stressed, and we honestly didn't know how smooth the day would go if we just assigned family and friends for different tasks. And we were really going back and forth if we wanted to spend the money on a coordinator or not. In the end, we are honestly so glad that we did. So this is probably like our top recommendation, is to get at least a day of coordinator if you're not getting a wedding planner. So in our case, we did most of the wedding planning ourselves. So we got all the other vendors ourselves. We pretty much planned the day ourselves, the design, etc. We pretty much just wanted someone to make sure the day goes smoothly. If anything comes up, they can take care of it. I did a Google search and there were a few options. Fewer options though, just because it was about 4 months out to the wedding. But I'm so glad with Evanescence's wedding, we had Nikki. She had the day available and oh my God, she did so good. So in her case, she pretty much did everything for the month of leading to the wedding. We had an initial call with her about a month out. She got all the contact information from the vendors, got all the details of the day that we had planned already. And she was able to create a master timeline of the day that we could send out to friends and family. Nick and I are just so relieved. We didn't think about a single thing during the day. They helped with the setup in the morning, a bit with a takedown at night, and they helped with the flow of the rehearsal dinner, luckily. And then any extra details, they essentially ironed out. And then during the day, there's like nothing that she came to us for. Anything that did come up, she took care of. And for her, she did also have an assistant during the day because our wedding was a little bit larger, around that 150 guest count. And she did also say our wedding was probably like one of the most fun that she's gone to. And she also did compliment the line dance too, so I think she had fun also. Honestly, even thinking about having her at the wedding makes me so happy. So she did a great job. We love her. Something else that I forgot to add in the video too was that we actually got wedding crashers, which honestly, Nick and I are pretty honored that we got. They were pretty harmless. They were just like hanging out along the sides. They were out on the patio for a little bit and they joined it on the dance floor for a bit too. But we just told Nikki that we didn't know who they were, and Nikki took care of them. She like questioned them and they ended up leaving, but that was something else that Nikki helped out with. Last thing that we did add was a lion dance. So this one we were on the fence about too. It had been mentioned by Jen, actually Nick's cousin, and she was like, oh, you know, they can do weddings too. If you're interested, I can ask about the date, see their availability, etc. And they happen to be available. And once again, we're pretty happy that we got this. A lot of family said that this was probably the highlight of the night. I didn't realize that there'd be 4 lions dancing. So there's like 2 adult lions, like a teenage lion and then like a baby lion that was there. And they did about a 15-minute performance. I think it was a really cool experience for a lot of the family too, because it's something more traditional that they could experience, and then something new for the non-Asian guests to experience as well. So with the dress selection, first one was the wedding dress. With this one, I actually did browse and try on dresses way back before we even had our courthouse wedding, because for the courthouse, I went to Nick's aunt's dress shop in California just to get that original Chinese dress for that courthouse. And then while I was there, they were like, there's a few wedding dresses if you want to try some on. So I did try some on just to get an idea of what I liked. And then later on that summer at Medicine Hat, I tried on a few dresses as well, once again, just to get an idea. So after that, I did have an idea of what I did want. So 2 main things I wanted: off the shoulder, and then buttons all the way down the back of the train. About 12 to 14 months before the wedding, I hit up to 2 places in Calgary area. First one was a consignment shop. There was some beautiful dresses there, but unfortunately none of them really fit the style that I wanted. And then second one was actually at Elite Bridal in ᴡᴏʟʟᴅ. I had a few friends that bought dresses from there and highly recommended it. I did find the dress. I didn't decide right at the time. I wanted to sit and think about it. I did end up moving forward with that one. I ordered the dress and actually came in within a few weeks, or at least like a month or so. They were very quick with it. So I started the alterations about 6 months in advance. There's a little detail. I unfortunately don't have a clip of it. Let me see if I can find it actually. These are the buttons going all the way down the train. And then what Marianne did, the seamstress, she had this one button that was hidden in here. And if you pull on it, it turns into a wrist strap. And then once you're done with it, you can look underneath and you can just pull it back down and it goes back in place there. Anyway, so that was just my favorite detail of it. I did use it a few times, and otherwise it was just the regular bustle. The florals, flowers are expensive for weddings, and Nick and I knew this. We didn't want to do real flowers for the entire wedding, so we only went with real flowers for the wedding party bouquets. And once again, did a lot of research, reached out to a few different florists. And then I did end up working with Sweet Bloom Florals. So I don't know how to say her name, Tavia, but Sweet Bloom Florals, she was so sweet. We did an initial phone call, which there was no charge for, just to see the vibe that we were going for the wedding, the color palette we were going for, and then also our price range as well. She did also ask for photos of the dress and the bridesmaids' colors as well, just because she wanted to make sure that the florals matched the vibe and the aesthetic of the dress. After we had that initial phone call, she came up with her bloom board is what she calls it. With that one, we did do a phone call. Nick was on it as well. We went through all the types of flowers and colors of flowers that she recommended. Gave us some options for flowers as well. Then with that one, she just essentially came up with the bouquet. And she was luckily able to work well within our budget. She was actually a little bit under budget, which was great. And the bouquets turned out great. I was also nervous about the petite bouquets that we did ask for, but they ended up being a great size. They looked beautiful. All the other florals we actually got from Facebook Marketplace. I've been collecting it over like a year or so. We did find roses on Facebook Marketplace actually matched the roses that were in the bouquet as well. Even the florist, she was like, I'm very impressed that you matched the colors so well. So once again, everything worked out well with the flowers. That was another stress point, is if things would look tacky put all together. But when it came to the day, it looked great. On to the details, logistics, and the planning. Throughout the visits that Nick and I had, we did some planning and hands-on work, like table center planning, wood staining, and then also shout out to Jen and Jimmy. They let us use their house to store everything in. So their basement was like taken over by our boxes of stuff. So we primarily used Canva for a lot of the signage designs, the invite designs, save the dates, pretty much any signage or prints that we needed, we designed it on Canva. And then some of the prints, depending on what it was, we ordered it off Canva, or we just saved it and printed it off at Nick's workplace. Or we also did use Staples to print off some of the posters as well. A lot of virtual meetings and phone calls. Once again, since Nick and I are doing long distance and it's considered a destination wedding for us, all our meetings with any vendors, and all vendors actually, were through emails, phone calls, video calls. Especially the month leading up to the wedding, there's a week, I think we had like 4 or 5 meetings with vendors, and it was a lot. And then thank goodness, we did have some friends and family in Alberta that was able to like hold things for us or do things for us. So for example, Jade, one of my bridesmaids, she had all the bud vases already for her wedding that she offered to let me use at my wedding. So didn't have to pay for any of that, which was great. And it was the exact aesthetic that we wanted anyway. Jen actually did the ceremony arch for us. So that was one thing that we didn't have to worry about. Teresa also was such a big help. She was able to pick some stuff up from Facebook Marketplace in Medicine Hat. She helped set up that seating chart for us, which was great. She did the cake for us too. One other thing that I haven't really talked about yet was our tea ceremony. We had our tea ceremony actually the day before the wedding, and in hindsight, we are so glad we didn't do it all on the same day, which some people do. It would have just been way too much busyness for one day. So the tea ceremony we had on the Friday at the San Fran Hotel in their conference room. It was initially our parents that was supposed to plan most of it, but Nick and I ended up planning a lot of the logistics of the day. For the outfits for this one, my parents actually went to China a few months prior. They actually had planned to get our tea ceremony outfits. So they sent us a few options while they were there, and we went for the most dampened down outfits, which was still a lot, but It actually looked really good in photos. And then a lot of the decorations, our parents also planned to. And then they actually helped set up the tea ceremony the night before. So yeah, tea ceremony, it was about an hour and a half total for photos first. And with the photos, there's a lot of different combinations. So of course the family, they wanted with just the family, or just with aunts and uncles, and then with just like the siblings, and then with the kids, without the kids, with +1s, without the +1s. So it was a lot of photos, which was fine. We kind of expected it. And then the tea ceremony itself only lasts about an hour or so. And to be honest, I was a little bit lost. Obviously, I've never done a tea ceremony before. And a lot of the aunts and uncles on Nick's side, it's like a slightly different dialect of Chinese, and I wasn't familiar with like the how to say aunt and uncle in that dialect. So I just kind of mumbled underneath my breath their proper honorifics, and we served them tea, and they just gave us the red envelopes. It was actually pretty smooth overall. Biggest summary and takeaways of planning. First thing I recommend is slowly accumulating things over a year to avoid any panic buying, to make sure you get what you need and want that fit your aesthetic. Second thing, definitely highly recommend a joint email account. That way both partners are able to get access to any conversations that happened, any important information, etc. Third, bring a change of shoes. I know a lot of people do this anyway, but after the ceremony was done and once I got to the reception, I just changed into my white Nike shoes. It saved my feet and it was a lot more comfortable. Things that did work for us. First thing was day of coordinator. I already went through this so much. Get one. Second one is the boys ran errands for us the morning of the wedding. So I know classically boys during the morning getting ready, they're just like chilling, hanging out, whereas the girls are up early getting ready. Nick actually got up at the same time as me. He also stayed up with me because I was feeling sick. I told him to get more sleep, but he stayed up with me. He got me tea at like 1 a.m. because I couldn't sleep until like 2 a.m. Anyway, the morning of, Nick and the boys, they actually did a breakfast run for the girls. So they went to Timmy's, picked up some food for us and dropped it off at the hotel where we were getting ready at. And then they did also bring some of the decor to the venue the morning of as well. Just because at the venue, there was an event happening the night before the wedding, so we weren't able to drop things off prior. So yeah, they were able to drop stuff off in the morning and start assembling some stuff, which was nice. And then they did also get to hang out a bit afterwards because the media team didn't get to Calgary until 9:30. So they had some time to just hang out and chill. Definitely utilize your team and your community that you have. So friends, family, if they're up for it and they have the ability to, use them to help get stuff, buy stuff, store stuff. Something else that I should have mentioned earlier is our Excel sheets. We actually use a shared Google Sheets on our joint email account that we planned everything on. So from the very beginning to very end, on this one we had our general notes, so things we went to buy and get, things to print, any notes that we had with phone calls and video calls. Then we also had our vendor contact information. We had our inspo pics so that we had just a central master reference page. For example, the food costs on there, pretty much like everything we did on those Google Sheets. And then we used supplemental websites like Canva to help organize or design some things. To the things that didn't work out for us or things that were kind of out of our control that we wish we could have changed. First one, pretty minor, but Nick and I, we intended to have matching Nike shoes for the reception and the dance. Nick brought his shoes to the venue, but when he was looking at changing them, he couldn't find them. They were tucked away under a table somewhere, but it was fine. He just wore his normal shoes. Second thing, Nick knows all about this because a few days after the wedding, I was actually having a bit of like a mental breakdown about this because I felt so bad. So throughout the night, we did do some giveaway prizes. So we collected Amazon gift cards, and instead of a bouquet toss or like any sort of garter toss, Nick tossed Pokemon cards, and then I tossed a Lego set and some eye drops. With that being said, Nick's family ended up getting, I think, like pretty much all the prizes. So none of my family or our friends ended up getting the prizes, I don't think, and I don't want them to feel bad about it, but just statistically, Nick's family had numbers and size on their side. But I did feel really bad because there were a lot of friends and some of my cousin's kids that were there, and they were like so eager to win some of these prizes and like the Amazon gift cards, and they never did. So I feel really bad. But the Amazon gift cards, that is something, side note, that did work for us as well. This is something that Steven recommended, was while people were like waiting for dinner to be served, they could do little games. So they ended up doing rock, paper, scissors against Shelby, and if you won, got an Amazon gift card. And we did the scavenger hunt game as well. So little things like that. And it was really cute. I really liked the idea. I just felt really bad that none of my family or our friends got prizes, but I think it's okay. I won't think about it too much. So this is just a little hiccup, pretty minor, but something that I kind of overlooked. For the morning of getting ready, all the bridesmaids got ready at the Sandman Hotel, which is about 5 minutes away from Valley Ridge. For the girls getting ready, we had the hair and makeup team be finished by noon. With that, the last person that was getting their hair or makeup done was around 11 or 11:15 to be done at 12. On our timeline too, we said be at Valley Ridge at noon to start taking wedding party photos. But I didn't think about some extra buffer time in that period specifically, because in our case, I was a little bit delayed myself because the videographers need to do a personal interview with me, which disrupted the time of me getting ready, because they did want my hair and makeup to be at least partially done for that interview. And of course, with any hair and makeup, they want the bride going closer to the end. When I did the interview, it disrupted my time, my makeup getting done specifically. And then by the time I was done and the last bridesmaid was done, we were right at that noon. The photographers and videographers were like, oh, we're running a bit behind schedule. We should be at the location by now. And of course, we just finished. We still had to gather our stuff, still had to make our way over to the venue. So by the time we actually got to the venue, it was like 12:30 or 12:40. I don't think the media team was super happy with. Okay, so I was starting to look over the content that I filmed already and realized that there was chocolate on my mouth for the last 10 minutes. So I'm just gonna refilm it. So where I left off before there was chocolate on my face, I was saying that my camera overheated. I ate banana bread and then I came back after my camera cooled down. I was talking about the timing of the day, but at least in the meantime, they were able to get shots of the groomsmen and get content from them. But it's fine, it worked out. Once we got there, Nick and I did our first look and private vows, and then continued on with the wedding party photos and videos. Third one was hoping to do more mingling during cocktail hour. Mine and Nick's plan originally was to get all the photos and videos done before ceremony started, so that during cocktail hour, we'd get like a few photos here and there with people that wanted photos with us, and then also mingle with all our guests. And especially too, we wanted to introduce people to each other, because for example, Nick has some family in Vancouver, I have some family in Vancouver. We wanted to try to introduce them, and same with like other friends and stuff as well. But during cocktail hour, the photographers and videographers swept us away to do a few more shots, a few more videos, which is totally okay. We're gonna be excited to see the product anyway. But I wish we had more time to mingle with guests. And talking to people afterwards, they're like, you know, it's a wedding, you're gonna be busy, you're not gonna have time to talk to everyone, which is fine, but we were really hoping to. Last thing is, I couldn't control it. I was sick. I luckily was not like deadly sick, but a few days beforehand, my throat was hurting. I thought it would go away and it didn't. And it just felt general malaise and being unwell. But once a day came, took some cold medicine, and adrenaline kept me going all night. There were some other wedding party members that were sick. I think there was like a guest here and there that were sick as well. But I think overall everyone did have fun. So I was able to enjoy it and like still dance and sing. Overall, looking back at it, despite those little hiccups here and there, despite the other things that we wish we could have changed, it was actually such a good wedding. So many people came up to us the next day or two saying that they were hitting like a post-wedding depression. A lot of people lost their voices from singing. It was just like this big party, big vibe, and Nick and I actually were so happy with it. We sent out a Google Photos link to have people share their photos and videos. That's another thing that we really liked, is having this link, because we can look at everyone's POVs and experience a wedding through their eyes and see also different angles of the event. So yeah, we spent like the next few days just looking over those photos and videos for so long. But yeah, weather worked out. It was raining a few days before the wedding, and then the day after was super stormy, so weather worked out. Everything was great. Hopefully that was somewhat of a cohesive video. But now I feel like I'm in a withdrawal. I have so much time now, and I feel like I need to start planning something else. So Nick and I were actually looking into doing an Asia trip in 2027, hitting South Korea and maybe Taiwan, but I started planning that a little bit. Literally nothing, no dates decided yet. I was just looking at things to do. That was pretty much it for this video. I think it's gonna be a long one, but bye.